Ruby, to me, is the personification of the word fight.
Las Vegas is this beautiful, booming city. The city is very modernized, and its vibrant strip is a big tourist attraction. Along with that, Las Vegas has a strong community and has excellent labor unions for modern-day workers. But it wasn't always this way. Las Vegas was shaped into this amazing city that it is today by Ruby Duncan and the welfare rights movement. During the 1900s, Las Vegas, like many other cities during this time, was racist, sexist, and unfair. The welfare for all the citizens was awful. People had no rights. But that was all going to change when Ruby Duncan moved to Las Vegas in 1953. Before she moved, she lived in a small town called Tallulah, Louisiana.
I grew up in Tallulah, Louisiana, not really the little town, but about 12 miles out in the country, cotton fields and the backwoods. That's where I really grew up, picking cotton, chopping cotton.
Ruby Duncan led a life of poverty and dealt with extreme racism from her small town home in Tallulah, Louisiana. Tallulah was an extremely racist city, and she couldn't hold a job, which meant that she couldn't provide for her family or get out of poverty. Because of her race, few employers would hire her, and any job she could get would pay her close to nothing.
Then I moved, and before I moved, I was working at the city drugstore in Louisiana, making $8.50 a week. And I would go to work at 8, and I would get off at 1 in the morning. And and that's the life that I live. And so I decided to follow everybody else and come to Las Vegas.
She heard that Las Vegas was a boomtown through the few people she knew that had already moved there, and she thought that moving would give her a way out. She was looking for a city of opportunity. When she got to Las Vegas, she went to meet her relatives at an old motel. The motel itself was not very nice, but she decided to stay optimistic and give Las Vegas a chance. What was once a land of promise now turned into a bad reality. She was now an independent mother and needed a good-paying job to provide for her family, but Las Vegas was still filled with racism, much like Tallulah. Duncan's first job in Las Vegas was working with a man named Hank Henry and his family. She later went on to start her work with hotels as a maid. While working her first maid job, she got fired for being too slow, to which she responded by finding work elsewhere at another hotel, which then led her into going into the culinary industry at the Sahara. After working with the Sahara for over 2 years, Ruby Duncan had a big injury which caused life-changing damage and led to a high cost in medical bills.
The short order cooks would cook the steaks and the eggs. They somehow accidentally turned over a whole 5-gallon can of fried grease. And I didn't see it. And so by me walking with my head up, I slipped. And when I slipped, I messed up my hip and my back and my shoulders. And I had to, matter of fact, I cracked my hip bone.
Because of Duncan's injury, she was fired from her job. With nowhere else to turn to, she called the welfare organization in hopes of them providing her with a job. As a result, they told her because of her injuries, no job would hire her and she would be best suited to stay at home and rest. But Ruby Duncan had other ideas. So she went down to the unemployment office and they gave her a job working under a counselor. It wasn't until one day when one of her friends contacted her about the welfare rights organization, or what it was known as then, the Welfare Mothers.
My girlfriend called me and she says, Ruby, she says, why don't you come down and join the Welfare Rights Organization? No, the AFDC Mothers at that time. It was the Welfare Mothers. I say, come down and join Welfare Mothers. What are you talking about? And she says, well, we need somebody to be our president because our president now is sickly, she can't work. I said, oh. I says, no, I don't think I want that. So she just kept on me. And so I says, one night, I think I will come down and see what you guys are doing. So as soon as I got there sitting, and I began to ask questions, and she then told me that, well, we need you, Ruby. So they voted me in. I said, look, I don't know what the world I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to do it. You guys got to help me, you know, and I just went off. But all of a sudden, I just took it on myself and told them, I said, well, why don't we just go door to door and ask different mothers and women with children, how is the welfare department treating them? And that's how we got started.
She first learned during the winter of 1969 what a legislature was. By the next summer, she was reading and interpreting welfare laws herself and developing an analysis of what was wrong with the system. They decided that they wanted and worked to get better jobs, clothing, food stamps, and they protested to get these things, but that was only the beginning. Meetings for the members of the welfare mothers became more frequent so they can stay on top of all the goings-on in Las Vegas. People began to get excited about change. There were hundreds of women that were part of the organization, and Ruby Duncan was yet again voted president. It wasn't just the black minorities that were advocating for this change. Women of every color, even senior citizens, needed change. The unemployment rate was high, and there was a lot of poverty for these hardworking women. The most influential event of the local Clark County Welfare Rights Organization was the March on Caesar's Palace. On March 6, 1971, the march took place. It all began with Ruby Duncan's idea to take their ideas to the Strip. They needed to do something to get people's attention and address the problem. Casinos held all the power in Las Vegas at this time, and this event would generate a lot of publicity and change for the group. The march they organized closed down the Strip. They marched with famous activists and actors like Cesar Chavez and Jane Fonda. They had hundreds of people gather, and the march itself was a quarter-mile long. To make a movement work, you have to have a really broad base. Duncan and the West Side Mothers drew together an amazingly broad coalition of women and men, young and old, black and white. The welfare mothers got a large sum of money from protesting, which they used to start Operation Life. Operation Life built a community for people in poverty. It opened healthcare clinics, libraries, community centers, employment centers, job training, etc. This was one of Ruby Duncan's greatest accomplishments, and it was very helpful in assisting people out of poverty and leading them into better lives. She not only helped these people succeed, she helped them thrive. This operation taught people the tools they needed to help themselves. A 1987 Ford Foundation report singled Duncan out for praise, calling her and other CDC leaders architects of a new society and practitioners of corrective capitalism. Changes in programs and changes in attitudes about poverty led to the removal of first control and then funding for the programs that had been so successful. The question was increasingly asked, why should poverty programs be long-term? Can't people get jobs? The answer lies in the story of Ruby Duncan's early life and the lives of so many others. When racism prevents a community from having educations and good-paying jobs, the road out of poverty is a long one. Today, Operation Life is gone, as are the government programs that made much of it possible. But the impact from those years is still being felt. The young people who benefited from the health center and the library and the employment programs have gone on to have better lives than they would have otherwise. Las Vegas has continued to become a more and more diverse community. Today, other groups have stepped up to serve these communities. The Culinary Union, which was once largely closed to African Americans, is now a major force for bringing them and many new immigrants into the middle class. It is the power of these organizations carrying on the work of Operation Life that makes Las Vegas the vibrant city that it is. Operation Life is gone, but not forgotten. In recent years, Ruby Duncan has been recognized by both the local school district and from the floor of the United States House of Representatives. This is one of the schools named after Ruby Duncan. It was meant to honor her and all the work she had done to better our city.
An icon, Miss Ruby Duncan, who is an inspiration in my home state to many. Ruby, to me, is the personification of the word fight. She is someone who we can all learn from each and every day. Congratulations to Miss Ruby Duncan.